The alarm clock blared, but I was already awake. 4 a.m. was my reality check, the calm before the storm of motherhood. I had 4 beautiful, boisterous boys: Liam, 7, Ethan, 5, Oliver, 4, and little Noah, just 2. Each day was a whirlwind of needs, demands, and endless energy. I often felt like a juggler, keeping countless balls in the air while desperately trying to catch my breath. Breakfast was a symphony of spilled cereal, competing demands for cartoons, and the ever-present aroma of toast. Getting everyone dressed and ready for the day was an Olympic sport. I navigated tantrums, negotiated with tiny terrorists over mismatched socks, and somehow managed to pull it all together. By the time the older boys were ready for school, I felt like I'd already run a marathon, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. These boys were my everything, my reason for being. Even on the most exhausting days, their infectious laughter and innocent love filled me with a joy that chased away the shadows. As I strapped Noah into his car seat, my heart swelled with a fierce, protective love. This was my life, chaotic and beautiful, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Liam's diagnosis had been a blow: autism spectrum disorder. Suddenly, their world was filled with unfamiliar acronyms: ABA therapy, OT, speech therapy. Sarah threw herself into researching the best interventions, determined to give Liam every opportunity to thrive. The days were a blur of appointments, therapy sessions, and endless paperwork.
Ethan and Oliver bounced around me like excited puppies, impatient for the school run. Ethan, a ball of energy, craved constant attention, while Oliver, the sensitive soul, clung to my leg for reassurance. The school run was a carefully choreographed dance, navigating traffic, drop-off lines, and the occasional meltdown.
Back home, it was time for Noah's nap, a brief respite in the storm. But even as he slept, Sarah's mind raced. She worried about Liam's progress, Ethan's boundless energy, Oliver's quiet anxieties. She longed for a moment to herself, to simply breathe and gather her thoughts. But motherhood was a relentless, beautiful burden, and she wouldn't have it any other way. Just when Sarah thought she had a handle on the day, a new challenge would arise. A cough that turned into croup, a scraped knee that wouldn't stop bleeding, the dreaded stomach bug that ripped through the household like a hurricane. Motherhood was a crash course in childhood illnesses, and Sarah felt like she was constantly playing nurse.
Nights were the hardest. The boys, usually bundles of energy, transformed into clingy shadows, afraid of the dark, plagued by nightmares. I would tiptoe between rooms, soothing fears, dispensing cuddles, and whispering stories until my voice was hoarse. Sleep, when it finally came, was often punctuated by the sounds of a child's cry or a feverish whimper.
Exhaustion became her constant companion, a heavy weight on her shoulders. There were days when she felt like she was running on fumes, fueled only by coffee and sheer willpower. But amidst the chaos, there were moments of pure grace. Liam's triumphant smile after mastering a new skill, Ethan's infectious laughter, Oliver's heartfelt hugs, and Noah's sweet, sleepy smiles. These were the moments that made it all worthwhile, the moments that reminded Sarah why she was fighting so hard for her family. Through it all, her husband, Mark, was her rock. A long-haul truck driver, he was often away from home for days, sometimes weeks at a time. He traversed the motorways of the UK and Europe, his cab a lonely cocoon of thoughts and worries. He missed his family with an ache that never quite faded, but he knew he was providing for them, working tirelessly to build a better future.
I called whenever I could, my voice a lifeline of love and support. I listened patiently as Sarah poured out her heart, sharing the triumphs and tribulations of our chaotic life. I offered words of encouragement, reminding her of her strength and resilience. And when I was home, even if it was just for a few precious days, I threw myself into family life, my love for Sarah and the boys shining in my eyes.
He would take over the school run, his imposing frame a source of amusement to the other mothers. He would build pillow forts in the living room, transforming their home into a magical playground. And he would hold Sarah close at night, his arms a safe haven from the storms of life. They were a team, united in their love for their children, even when miles separated them. But the strain of their situation began to take its toll.
I felt so overwhelmed by the demands of motherhood and the constant worry for Liam. It was like I was increasingly isolated.
Friends, unable to fully comprehend the challenges of raising a child with special needs, drifted away.
The life I had envisioned for myself, a life filled with laughter and shared dreams, felt like a distant memory.
Mark too felt the pressure.
The long hours on the road, the constant separation from my family and the financial burdens, they created a chasm of loneliness in my heart.
He longed to be present for his sons, to witness their milestones and share in their laughter. But the reality of their situation kept him tethered to the open road.
I just wanted to be there for my boys, to see them grow, but it felt impossible.
Arguments, once rare, became more frequent, fueled by exhaustion and unspoken resentments.
The joy that had once defined our relationship seemed to dim, replaced by a weary acceptance of our circumstances.
They still loved each other, but the spark, the shared dreams, the light-hearted banter that had once bound them together seemed to flicker precariously in the face of adversity.
We still loved each other, but it just felt like the spark was fading.
One evening, as Mark sat at the kitchen table, sipping his coffee and flipping through a trucking magazine, an idea began to form. He had always been ambitious, dreaming of being his own boss, of building something for his family. He had years of experience in the transport industry, knew the ins and outs of the business, and had a reputation for reliability and hard work.
Sarah, I've been thinking, what if we started our own transport business?
He shared his thoughts with Sarah, hesitant at first, unsure of how she would react. To his surprise, her eyes lit up, a flicker of hope igniting in their depths.
Mark, that's a brilliant idea. Let's talk it through.
They spent hours that night, huddled over the kitchen table, discussing the possibilities, weighing the risks and rewards. It was a long shot, a gamble, but it was a gamble they were willing to take. They knew it wouldn't be easy. Starting their own transport business would require a significant financial investment, something they could ill afford. But they were determined to make it work for themselves, for their future, for the chance to finally build the life they had always dreamed of. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. Mark took on extra shifts, working tirelessly to save every penny they could. Sarah, a natural organizer, threw herself into researching grants and loans for small businesses. They sold their second car, downsized their belongings, and cut back on every non-essential expense.
We can do this, Mark. We just need to stay focused and keep pushing forward.
They faced countless obstacles. Mountains of paperwork, skeptical bank managers, and the daunting task of securing their first clients. There were moments of doubt, nights when sleep evaded them as they lay awake, worrying about the future. But they supported each other, drawing strength from their shared dream and the unbreakable bond of their love. Slowly but surely, their hard work began to pay off. They secured a small business loan, found a reliable second-hand truck, and landed their first few clients.
Sarah, we did it. We're really doing it.
Mark was back on the road, but this time it was different. He wasn't just a driver, he was a business owner, building something for himself, for his family. And Sarah, for the first time in years, felt a surge of hope. As their business grew, so too did their sense of accomplishment. They hired their first employee, a friend of Mark's from his trucking days, and then another and another. Their fleet expanded from 1 truck to 3, then 5. They moved from their small, cramped flat to a spacious house with a garden, a place where their boys could finally run free.
I can't believe how far we've come, Sarah.
Mark was able to cut back on his long-haul trips, spending more time at home with his family. He relished the simple joys of family dinners, bedtime stories and weekend outings to the park. The distance that had grown between him and Sarah began to shrink, replaced by a renewed sense of intimacy and shared purpose.
It feels like we're finally a family again, Mark.
Sarah, no longer burdened by the constant worry of making ends meet, was able to focus on her own well-being and that of her sons. She found a support group for parents of children with autism, connecting with others who understood her struggles and triumphs. She had more time for herself, for long baths, for reading, for simply being. Their life wasn't perfect, of course. There were still challenges, setbacks, and moments of chaos. Liam's journey with autism continued to be a roller coaster of progress and plateaus. But they faced each obstacle as a team, stronger together than they had ever been apart. They had achieved their dream, building a successful business from the ground up. But more importantly, they had rediscovered the joy in their journey, the love that had bound them together in the first place. They had weathered the storms and emerged stronger, their love a beacon of hope in a world that often felt dark and uncertain.
Mark, look at our boys. This is what it's all about.
And as Sarah watched her boys playing in the garden, their laughter echoing through the air, she realized that success wasn't just about financial security or material possessions. It was about family, love, and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, always a reason to keep fighting, always a reason to believe in the promise of a brighter tomorrow.